Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, What is ESAM and Why Do I Need It? My name is Jessica Malakian, and I'll be today's moderator. We'll start out with a few brief housekeeping slides. For today's webinar, we have Shelley Chase and Mike Jacobs. Shelley Chase, a software fellow with Progress Software for over 20 years, takes a whole product view over the company's core product, OpenEdge. Her technical skills and customer-driven focus drive the architectural direction of the product. Shelley is extremely talented in system architecture, object-oriented programming, and cloud deployment technologies. She has a patent for her work on alternate presentation types for human workflow activities. Her passion is to provide a well-architected product with an excellent user experience. She works with engineers, product managers, and services to guarantee success. Mike joined the Progress OpenEdge engineering team in 2000. Since joining, he has worked on a variety of application server and security-related projects. The project list includes Classic App Server, Paths for OpenEdge Server, and Spring Security, TDE, auditing, SSL, TLS, and multi-tenancy. Today, Mike continues to use his knowledge and skills to help make OpenEdge products better and more secure. And now I'll turn it over to Shelley and Mike to start the presentation.
Thank you, Jessica. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to see this great group of attendees interested in security. I'm Shelley Chase, a software fellow at Progress, and with me is Mike Jacobs, software fellow and longtime security guru for OpenEdge. Mike and I are here to demystify a relatively new component of the OpenEdge product set, the External Security Administration Manager, or more easily known as the ESAM. Our goal today is to help you understand the ESAM, explain its purpose, usage, and benefits for your business application. The agenda for today is looking at the security problem ESAM helps solve, talk about what ESAM the product is, look at the security tasks managed by the ESAM. Mike will do a deeper dive into ESAM, who, what, where, when, and how, and then we'll talk a little bit about where ESAM goes in the future. It's important to note that ESAM is a component for future OpenEdge security initiatives, such as FIPS 140 enablement. It is a living project and will grow with OpenEdge security features and requirements into the future. So it's very important for everyone to understand what the ESAM is and how to work with it, because it's here to stay. So let's look at the issue of securing your application. It's important to understand the key areas of application security and assess the risks in each area if mitigations are not developed. The challenge is to address each of these areas in a way that allows our customers control while also being resistant to attacks by unauthorized entities. This diagram shows all areas of security that you can and should consider for an enterprise business application. It covers all aspects of running your application and the types of vulnerabilities that could exist. On this wheel, OpenEdge provides software and/or guidance in the areas of server configuration, transport security, session management, and authentication. You can see those at the top right hand of the wheel. In years past, a business application often ran in open systems behind a firewall. Security was done by the application providers by building their own security controls, or they just trusted the environment the application ran in. Today, the security concerns are more important, and for business applications, there is a need for trusted location to store secure data, the ability to limit access control and provide auditing over changes to configuration data, only run in a trusted, authentic OpenEdge installation, and only allow trusted third-party components. Securing your business application using the OS file system is complex, to say the least. So while security can be done at the OS level, cybersecurity requirements have increased and implementation can be extremely complex. Security can be coded into the product, which introduces maintenance and customization challenge. Let's look at the security in the OpenEdge platform. First, we have incorporated software scanners into our CI/CD pipeline to identify vulnerabilities in third-party software and source code weaknesses that can result in security vulnerabilities. We've externalized security policy decisions to a safe and trusted area so that you can customize security rules. Hard-coded security policies in your application can require complex product upgrades when additional conditions are needed or policies need to change. Secure storage for critical security keys needs special protection. These are often called the keys to the keys. It is important to protect these critical keys in protected storage and under the control of IT admins to keep them safe. Centralization over the security of these key software systems gives better separation of duty. Externalizing access to secure policies and secret configurations provides stronger control over your running application. So that's security in general and OpenEdge. Let's look at the ESAM itself and what it does. So the ESAM vision statement is the ESAM enhances the security of OpenEdge by providing governance over application runtime practices, using industry standard security architectures to meet most corporate security requirements. Let's look at a first use case addressed by the ESAM in 12.8. The ESAM's initial use case is to remove a common weakness, which is called the execution of unauthorized code or commands. There are two CWEs reported for this, and the first one, CWE 114, executing commands or loading libraries from an untrusted source or in an untrusted environment can cause an application to execute malicious commands and payloads on behalf of an attacker. And CWE 78 says attackers can bypass the client-side checks by modifying values after the checks have been performed or by changing the client to remove the client-side checks entirely. Some concrete examples of how these exploits could be used maliciously is by doing command execution where the path is either relative or the path is external to the running application and can be passed in. The second one is library loading, again using a relative path or taking a path from an external source. The ESAM is a long-term solution to externalize security, decisions, secrets, and administration. It is the core of OpenEdge security improvements in the future, including security concerns that we described earlier in the presentation. The ESAM provides access control for an OpenEdge installation, eliminating the potential for running malicious code in place of OpenEdge installation. The ESAM itself is what's called a trusted third party and operates as a single source of truth. That means that it is not part of the OpenEdge product set. This helps protect the system by running within the secure root install path $DLC, and that is set during installation. There are two major capabilities available in ESAM for 12.8 to address those CWEs we just looked at. The ESAM is a trusted source for security policy decisions. So, who can access who and what can be run. And it is a trusted source for secure configuration data, again, making sure the keys to the keys is in a secure location. There were some principles that we defined during the creation of the ESAM, and I'd like to go over that. As I just said, ESAM is an independent component from OpenEdge with its own installer. The installer is provided as part of the OpenEdge product installation for convenience and will be installed transparently. The ESAM employs separation of duty to apply the principle of least privileged. When running your business application, the security of running a trusted version of OpenEdge is managed by the system administrator, which often holds a much higher standard than a typical business application admin. The ESAM is configured to be secure by default. Limited read-write access is crucial to protect the secure configuration and make sure only the sysadmin has write access. The ESAM itself cannot be a single point of failure. It has multiple levels of error fallback to give your application the ability to continue in certain circumstances if you want to. However, you will be compromising security if you bypass the security checks normally performed by the ESAM. The ESAM runs in the background and will only be noticed when it denies access to the OpenEdge product. On a well-configured and secure system, the ESAM will run transparently. And lastly, only one ESAM is needed per system and can manage multiple OpenEdge installations. Let's follow a use case of installing 12.8 on a new system. In this case, when the OpenEdge installer checks for an existing ESAM, it discovers there is none. And the ESAM is a prerequisite of OpenEdge in 12.8. So as I said earlier, for your convenience, the ESAM installer is included with the OpenEdge installation. It does require system admin privileges. After the ESAM is installed, you can notice it on the right-hand side box here. It offers a secure interface to a policy rules engine, a resource connector, and an install registration management system. Only a trusted OpenEdge installation can communicate with the ESAM. The ESAM is always installed into an OS-owned directory space with full access for system admins, but restricted write access for group and user accounts. You'll notice that the ESAM has global policy rules and configuration settings. All requests to the ESAM use policy rules to make security operation decisions and optionally can use a secret storage plugin to store and retrieve secure information. It is possible to customize the policy rules per installation. That will be used only for the product installation that is being configured at the moment, and all other installations will use the global policies or their own custom settings that they define during their installation. So now, during installation, now that the ESAM has been installed, the OpenEdge 12.8 installation can continue. So during installation, the OE installer creates an ID file token and calls the ESAM registration, which creates a registered entry containing the installation's GUID ID, absolute installation path, and digest hash of the OE installation's token file. This is a very important part of the ID security and trust model so that the installation can be trusted and secure. OpenEdge will generate a new installation GUID token file and then call the ESAM secure interface to register its token as a legitimate OpenEdge install, in this case, 12.8. Once the installation is registered, all execution of products from that installation will call the ESAM with its installation ID to validate that it matches a trusted OpenEdge installation on the machine and that the product is running from a trusted location. We mentioned earlier that a system only needs one ESAM, even if multiple versions of OpenEdge are installed. Back in engineering, I'm going to install an alpha copy of 13.0. In this case, the ESAM is already installed and can be used. But just as with 12.8, the OpenEdge installation for 13 calls the ESAM secure interface to register itself as a legitimate OpenEdge install. The installer creates the ID file token and calls the ESAM registration. OpenEdge will generate a new installation ID token file and then call the ESAM secure interface to register its token as a legitimate OpenEdge install, in this case 13.0. The execution of all OpenEdge 13 products will call the ESAM to validate that its installation ID matches and the location match a trusted OpenEdge installation on the machine that the product is running from. So as you can see now, both of these OpenEdge installations have direct communication to the ESAM service, and all running products within those will use the ESAM to validate using the policies that are assigned to that installation. Now let's try to install OpenEdge 12.2. The installation of OpenEdge 12.2 on that system does not require the ESAM service, and it is running as before without the ESAM service. So on this system, we're going to have OpenEdge 12.2, which is not ESAM protected or doesn't follow ESAM policies. We're going to have OpenEdge 12.8, which is secure, and we're going to have OpenEdge 13.0, which again is running in a secure environment. We're now going to handle it over to Mike, who's going to tell us a lot about the inner workings of the ESAM service. Mike, hand it over to you.
Well, thank you, Shelley, for that high-level overview of ESAM. I'm going to take over now. We are going to focus the next section on you. This is where I want to be able to give you some more technical information, mostly aimed at the administration aspect of this. And from this, you'll be able to go out and have some basics to look at a current 12.8 installation and recognize where some of the component parts are. Going back, the OpenEdge ESAM security, okay, what we build into that service benefits your product's overall security, okay, because it can use a trusted source of security operations, okay? It's a part of a trust model. The ESAM service API does not open access to anything in the background, so specifically we protect against someone trying to abuse it to execute remote OS commands, a shell, any of the common types of intruder attacks. For right now, the ESAM service files, okay, it must be readable by the OS account that runs the OpenEdge executable, okay? That's those group permissions that Shelley was talking about beforehand, okay? So if you're running, ProWin, .exe, and then the count that that process is running in has to have read access into the ESAM service folders and files. Key things that you're looking for is a file called oesec.reg, anything in the lib directory, anything in the conf directory in there. These are required files, okay? Now you can observe that the Linux set UID and GID file directory permissions, okay, these you can use. We do not set the set UID, okay, for common security installations, but you do have available using the GUID permission, so that when your OpenEdge product runs and then it assumes the read access into the ESAM service. And anything that's not an administrator or an OpenEdge product, we try to block access to not give away clues that could be used to abuse it. Okay. Pretty much standard things, okay? If we talk about the services security, okay, as part of our CI/CD pipeline, okay, we do all of the same things for the ESAM service that we do for the OpenEdge product set itself, okay? It undergoes static and dynamic scans. It scans for secure coding practices, and throughout the process, okay, there's data integrity checking, okay, that happens all the way from the developer's desktop through the build process. Now, when the OpenEdge application connects to the ESAM service, it can actually gets assigned a state or a type of connection. The first one is we use the name service registered. That means that Okay, the product that you're running is in an OpenEdge installation that has been verified to be at a certain location with a registered ID. Okay? In other words, it is fully accessible to all of the policy operations and the service plugins. There's a intermediate state called Service Anonymous. This is where we think that this may be an OpenEdge installation, but we cannot find a registered entry with the same ID or the same location on your system. Okay. The last is Client Anonymous. Client Anonymous is our emergency fallback. In other words, it's there to be able to get you up to the point where your OpenEdge product can start, initialize, and then gracefully shut down. Okay. Client Anonymous does not give you a secure operating condition. Okay. But we want to absolutely protect your product against any abrupt shutdowns that may cause trouble. Okay. Now, Shelley went over this, but core components, okay, FIPS enablement, okay. This is one of those high profile security features that you want to closely control on who can actually enable FIPS mode, and more importantly, who can disable it, okay. Then we will be introducing additional initiatives that really gives us secure access to runtime configuration values. Who, what, where, when, and how. Now, we all know that sometimes the OpenEdge product administrators and the OS or IT ops administrators don't exactly get along. Well, that's just the case here. And it's important that we're going to try and break out between those two and have a clearer understanding of the separation of duty and what things we envision each one of those administrative roles will be required to work with. Okay. The ESAM service provides a secure file system location. Okay. If you look at the post installation, you'll notice that there are runtime library files and utilities there for administrators. There's the installation registry file, the policy configuration files, any data files, and service log files, which are there for auditing. Okay, it's installed it into a restricted access OS location. So I've given you the root directory for both Linux and Windows. Okay, in both cases, the ESAM service directory name is openedge.d, not to be confused with the OpenEdge file in the same root directory. Now, Shelley talked about the installations token ID file. Here I list out, okay, on Linux, okay, it's in the installations install/verify, and the file name is dlc.ver. It is a binary file, okay. You cannot delete it, you cannot change it, you cannot copy it. In Windows, it's in the same location, only under the OpenEdge installation directory, but it's the same binary file. They are not interchangeable. Okay, the ESAM service has auditing logs, and the auditing logs have restricted access because in the auditing logs we intend to place things for the OS administrator that has details they should be aware of versus what abstract information that should be made available to the OpenEdge product person or user. IT ops, what do I need? Okay. Each OpenEdge installation gets its own ESAM service configuration space, okay? For right now, that you will see that space, but our intention is to be able to allow you the flexibility to configure individual installation policies and data. But for right now, everything is operating out of the global policies and global data. In theory, also looking at the future, you'll be able to individually unregister an OpenEdge installation and then re-register, okay? Today that is not available, but that is part of the administration suite that we will be providing to you. Now, to get you prepared, if you're looking at this and you're exploring, you'll notice that the ESAM service root directory, and then there's a subdirectory that goes along with the OpenEdge product release version. And then you'll see a directory that is in fact a GUID, and that is the installation's registered GUID ID. Okay. So I just have a couple of examples here for 12.8 and on Windows and on Linux. Now, like any registration system, if the registry gets corrupt, it will cause you problems because it won't be able to validate OpenEdge products. So just as a tip, we normally expect you to back up as part of the system backup that OpenEdge.d and all of its files, but you can choose to also make a temporary backup copy before you do an OpenEdge installation, just in case, okay? If you're a cautious person like I am, you never leave anything to chance. Now, after completing the installation, I run this utility from within the OpenEdge service called Val DLC. What it does is it gives you a high-level picture that the embedded ESAM service installation operated correctly and that all of the required files are in place. Make a note, it does not tell you exactly that the product will run. It just says that the validate the service and the OpenEdge installation. Okay. I've had this happen more than once, that people in the past have, once they've completed an OpenEdge installation, their products installer, they will just get rid of all of the entire installation directory and subdirectories and files. You need to break that habit. Do not do that, because as soon as you do that, you will be operating in a less secure mode. And if your policies are configured correctly, it'll block product execution. Do not delete it. At least in this first round, if you go in and you change the policy file, then you have to restart the OpenEdge product, okay? Because changing products or the policy changes some of the internal runtime operations. We're very cautious at this point in time to ensure that you have consistent policy execution throughout the lifetime of the OpenEdge product you're running. Okay, shifting gears over to our trusty OpenEdge administrator. Please, when you're talking to technical support about anything, ESAM service is versioned independently, okay? That's because there isn't multiple copies. There's one instance, and that service has many different releases, okay? So knowing which version of the ESAM service, okay, is currently valid in your operation, okay, will help technical support understand any or all ESAM service published warnings or errors. Now, At this point, the ESAM service, it has to be local to the target system. You cannot put in soft links, for example, to a networked drive or to another location, within the OS file system. Okay, it has to be local. Okay. The ESAM service does run automatically, and it runs automatically in every OpenEdge installation. If the ESAM service is not there, it puts one there. If the ESAM service is at the same level as the OpenEdge release that you're installing, it will not touch anything. But if you're installing a later OpenEdge service, like Shelley's example for 13.0, then the embedded ESAM service will update it to be at the latest level, which would be the 13.0 level. Limits on administration. Okay, our entire security scheme, we want to leave the owners of the folders and the files as the installer places them, and that supports all product update operations, and then control it via groups. And a note right now, do not expect the OpenEdge Explorer, OpenEdge Management product to be able to remotely control the ESAM policy behavior. Okay. Now, there's always, the fine print in everything. So we recommend that you do not. Okay. The ESAM service ships with a set TLC utility. Do not run it. Okay. Avoid the trick of trying to copy or create a soft link to an OpenEdge installations executable. So don't put a shortcut in to some other location for _progress.exe, for example. Okay, I will not say this enough time. Do not delete the installation's token ID file. Do not change the ownership. It will affect your ability for that embedded ESAM service installer to function correctly. Now, if for some reason ESAM by policy suddenly stops your installation's executables from running, okay, you can look to restore the registry within the ESAM service, and you can try restoring the installation's token ID file. Keep in mind, these are binary files, and they have to be exact. Okay. There are just some, from a developer or tester, okay, just the world is changing. We suggest that you do your OpenEdge product development, okay, like it was a production system. This will ensure that through your desktop testing, your UAT, that should your product run in a deployment site that says block everything except registered installations, that your product behaves correctly, okay, in that event. Okay, we always recommend, okay, that you use or take advantage of the ESAM service, okay, to block unregistered or rogue, OpenEdge installations that somebody may have copied or put on the OS, okay, something that the OS's admin isn't aware of. And the OpenEdge installed scripts, okay, the executable copies, they're just not supported. One of the first things the service does is establish what is being run, where it's being run from, what its relationship is to an OpenEdge installation. Okay. So some of the old tricks will not work anymore. In summary, I would like to point out that ESAM is and will continue to be a critical component of the OpenEdge platform security. It's embedded and we use it almost universally throughout all of our products. Okay. The ESAM installation and administration are separate from OpenEdge. Okay. It's a fundamental principle. Adjust your administration operations accordingly. And that ESAM policies may be different for development and production. Because it's a policy-driven security space, okay, it's going to be that end deployment site that is going to be in control. Okay. Now, after all that, telling you which way is up, I will open the floor for questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Shelley and Mike. So, are you ready to get started?
Ready and waiting.
Great. Okay, so the first question is ESAM applied to 32-bit OpenEdge setup on 12.8 or higher?
The answer is that 32-bit right now is not fully supported through the ESAM service. And that is something that we are currently looking to extend, but have integrated into the product yet.
Okay. And the next question is, it's possible to relocation, add, and remove location after OpenEdge installation, utilities or tools. I think I said that the correct way. But yeah, any responses for that one?
Okay. At this point in time, the utility that allows you to do that has a bug in it, and it's pretty much stuck in place. You have to uninstall and reinstall.
Okay. The ESAM path on Windows, does that distinguish 32-bit and 64-bit product installs?
No, and that's in line with our working on 32-bit support, because on Windows we'll have to, it'll be the same path, but the actual service libraries, okay, will be different. They'll be accessed 32-bit for that type of runtime and 64-bit for the 64-bit runtime.
Okay.
I think we also have to be careful to realize that 32-bit is intended as a AVM available while you do a migration to a 64-bit. I know some people are blocked by OCXs, but our future is not in the 32-bit realm, which is why it was prioritized lower. So it is a goal that you should be thinking about, which is getting off 32-bit.
Okay. The next question is, does it work on PAS Docker instance as well?
The answer is yes for the 64-bit version.
And the next question is, what is the performance hit to the server in running the ESAM service?
Okay, the performance hit is minimal because it's a one-time library load when the OpenEdge product starts. And one of the first things that always happens is that we go out and verify the validity of the installation, and that's performed probably a maximum of one time per product. And for example, if you start an AVM that has a database connection, and then you'll see the call twice, but it's very fast. Okay, you won't see any appreciable difference in the startup time.
Okay, great. Next question is, with ESAM, how do we copy our OpenEdge install across our multiple locations?
You don't.
Repeat the question.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi is cutting out. Sorry. So with ESAM, how do we copy our OpenEdge install across our multiple locations? Sorry.
Yeah, you can't. You have to install it. It has to be a registered install. If you don't want to do that, you can set a policy for the ESAM to not check, but you get none of the security checking that the ESAM is intended to do.
Okay. And do changes to host name or IP address affect the token registration?
They do not.
Okay. And next question is, we run our Windows client from a Samba share. Is ESAM going to break this ability?
As long as we can resolve an absolute file path, okay, to where the OpenEdge installer placed the installation, then in theory it should work. But I know that we've never actually tested that install type.
Okay.
I also, Jess, I want to add to my last comment about needing to install on all systems. That is one of the powers of deploying as in a Docker container, right? You can do the Docker container once and get a validated path registered, and then you can use that container, from many locations. You can spin up instances of that container and be guaranteed that they're secure.
Okay, great. Next is talking about linking of client executables. Does this also apply to the paths for OpenEdge multi-session agent executable?
It does.
Absolutely.
Yes, ESAM, pretty much any place where we pick up and use the DLC environment variable, for example. Okay, all of those will always reference the validity of that root path with ESAM before it goes out and generates a full path to a file. Okay, so yes, it does.
Okay. And is there a way to register after copying so we can take advantage of security?
No.
Okay. And will Windows 32-bit installations be protected?
I think we answered that twice already.
Oh, yes, okay. And then we can skip that one then. So the next one is, what is the DLC install ESAM file?
What was that one again, Jessica?
Yeah.
What is the DLC install ESAM file?
Ah, okay. You're talking about if you look in the installation directory, there's an install ESAM. Okay. What that is an emergency fallback. So if for some reason during your OpenEdge install, the embedded ESAM service installer fails for some reason, it gives you a secondary chance to be able to go in, run that binary file to complete the ESAM service installation.
Okay. And next question is, what is the default ESAM policy for permitting access to the DLC environment variable?
Okay. So the initial default was set with the emphasis on providing product migration. So the policy says permit all, basically. So if we find that the OpenEdge installation is not in our registry file or doesn't match, we'll consult the policy and it will say permitted to run anyway. Okay. The secure one is when you go to the policy file and you set the policy for blocking. So it does the same check, but in case there's no registration, no matching of IDs, it will come back and tell the OpenEdge product that they are unable to use the DLC value that has been set.
Okay.
So Mike, when I first do an installation, I don't configure anything. What is the default setting? What is that setting?
The default setting is allow anything.
Okay.
It basically, carries forward the unprotected OpenEdge installation from previous releases.
Right. So we did that because lets people, test and work in environments, development environments where if we shut people out immediately, it would be confusing. In a future release, we may make the default different, but for 12.8, that makes the most sense.
We want to give people a chance to consume this and evaluate their product, okay, against the new security service. Okay, and like it says, in the next major release, we may be going to a secure by default setting for the policy, and we'll let you know if that change happens.
Okay, great. So this is going to be the last question I'll ask for time purposes. So following this session, what is the first recommended source to use to get up to speed if this all seems new?
I guess
Thinking.
this webinar certainly we hope will help. There is documentation on the ESAM.
And reach out to technical support. Okay, the technical support is ready to be able to field questions, and if they don't have an immediate answer, and then they know where all the engineers live, so we will get you information.
Great. All right, thank you so much, Shelley and Mike, and thank you to everyone who attended today's webinar. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.